Hi everyone and welcome to Rank Suite's first webinar. It's National Apprenticeship Week and we've got some fantastic people on to talk all things digital marketing apprenticeships with us. I'm going to be the bearer of bad news here and I'm not going to introduce everyone. I'm going to go around and force you all to introduce yourself. Sophie, because you're the one directly next to me. Are you okay to go first?
Yeah, so I'm Sophie. I'm a recruitment consultant from Swarm Recruitment. So I specialise in apprenticeship recruitment and I work with Swarm Training with their employers and supporting them to find the right apprentice.
Amazing. And swiftly onto you, Bradley.
Yeah. Can I just make sure that you can hear me and it's not in slow motion?
It is in slow motion,
Okay.
but I was thinking I'd had too much caffeine.
Okay, I'll just talk, and if you can't hear me or it's muffled, let me know. So I'm Bradley. I'm a senior SEO lead at a company called Herd. We're a performance marketing and Shopify development company in Hull. And I've been in the industry, the digital marketing SEO industry, for around 8 years now. And I started my apprenticeship when I was 18. So yeah, that's me.
Amazing. And now to you, Tom.
Hi, my name's Tom Sangers. I'm the director of Metric Hub. We're a digital marketing agency based in Exeter, so quite a breadth of the country covered in this podcast. I've got 20 years experience in paid marketing from SEO to PPC. And recruited, I worked out just before coming into this one across about 4 different companies where I've been head of or director of about 32 apprenticeships or young people, graduates into digital marketing.
Amazing. We'll come back to that. I've got lots of questions. But Karim, who are you?
Hi, my name's Kareem. I'm digital PR manager at Fat Joe. Fat Joe are SEO marketplace, and I run kind of the PR department within the company. I did civil engineering at university and kind of used apprenticeships during COVID to pivot into PR and to say people are a lot more interesting than concrete. So I'm glad I did that.
And last but not least, Suzanne, are you okay to?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, my name's Suzanne Hodnett. I'm head of marketing at Swarm Training. So Swarm Training is a training provider, national training provider, but we do apprenticeships. We also do professional certificates in marketing, but also market research, project management, business improvement, accounts, all sorts of things. And I've been, as much as I'm head of marketing now, I have been a tutor myself here. So yes, I've got lots of insight on apprenticeships.
Amazing. So we've got a wealth of experience here, everything from the apprentice recruiters to former apprentices to apprentice employers. And basically the purpose of this webinar is just to have a really casual, chill chat and talk about the different experiences and benefits of hiring apprentices. So I think a really great start would be to give this open question to Sophie, to Bradley, to Karim, and ask, what's it like to have been an apprentice? What was your apprenticeship like?
Yeah, so for me, I've done 2 apprenticeships. So I've done business admin and also recruitment. So I dropped out of sixth form to do an apprenticeship because I didn't enjoy school, didn't get on with it. So I thought I'd wanted to be out working, earning money and learning. So my experience as an apprentice, sorry, it lagged. My experience has been amazing. It's really helped me grow my confidence, my skills, and my knowledge as well. So it's been.
Ooh.
Can everyone still hear me? Sorry.
Yeah, we can hear you, Sophie.
Yeah, sorry. It zoomed in on you. It meant to do that before and zoomed in on me, and I've put you off now. I'm really sorry.
Okay, perfect. So my experience has been great. I've done business admin and now recruitment. I think one of the things that I struggled with during both of my apprenticeships was making the time to do college work. So I tend to say that I'm a workaholic. So I prefer to get cracking on with my work. And I felt that I would hold off from doing my college work. So I think that time balancing college and work was a little bit difficult. But with the support from tutors, it really did help. So yeah.
Amazing, thank you. What about Bradley or Karim? What was your experiences like?
So as someone that did
Oh.
did university and then apprenticeships, it was like a breath of fresh air, because I think um, I've always had this issue with university where I felt like it was too theoretical, and I'm someone that learns through a lot of like doing and failing, and I felt like, well, if you fail an assignment, you still learn, but you're kind of penalized for it, and that system just wasn't conducive much of me growing. And so going into a company where you can directly see how the work is being done, especially with something like marketing. I love a good marketing book, but there's nothing better than actually seeing the people doing it and getting to do it yourself. And I feel like it was a really good mix of, I do like 4 days of work, and then one day would kind of be my study day, um, where I delve into whatever materials I wanted. And eventually you're trying to cultivate this whole portfolio of work. So I felt like it gives someone the benefits of studying and working and building this proof of work, but while actually working. And after a year of doing an apprentice, I feel like you're a lot more experienced hands-on than you are after year one of university. So I just really like that practical element to it.
Oh, amazing. Yeah, I'm loving hearing about everyone's individual takes of it. And Bradley, I think you've had the most like impressive trajectory since your apprenticeship, because I've worked with both Kareem and Bradley, but you went from apprentice, you've been a project lead, you've been a team leader. Like, can you talk to me about your experience, please?
Yeah, of course. So I think I had one of the benefits of, like, when I came into the agency life, I was already still pretty young. Like, I think when I started at SEO Works with Billy, I was 19, 20, which is still really young, because I started my apprenticeship when I was 18. So I came out of college studying sort of like creative industrial media, creative writing, and everyone else was looking at going to uni. And I just knew that that wasn't the right path for me because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I wasn't set on that sort of learning style. So when I found out about apprenticeships, I was like, that blends the perfect balance of learning and actually like hands-on experience. And when I got the apprenticeship, I didn't even know what marketing was. Like, I knew it was creative. I knew it was like, digital. It used computers. It was very graphicsy and video-y, but I didn't know what it was. But I knew I wanted to learn more. And I think throughout my apprenticeship, learning all about the different channels, so PPC, email, SEO, like I got to sort of like a buffet, like try different things without any sort of sort of going all in one area. And that's how I got into SEO, really. And throughout my apprenticeship, I was doing my apprenticeship and managing SEO clients during my time at the company. And after my apprenticeship, I just knew that's what I wanted to do. So I started working at agencies that did SEO and just started working my way up.
And you've partially touched on my next question here, about like the balancing work and learning and things like that. But this one's specifically for Bradley and Kareem. But how do you think doing a digital marketing apprenticeship has affected your career? Do you think you'd be in the same place if you hadn't gone that route?
I would say it was because before I went the apprenticeship route, I applied to like loads of jobs, and as someone who was doing an engineering degree, the gap between getting like an entry level job and where I was, for a lot of recruiters, seemed like unbridgeable. So I needed kind of that way in and that time to kind of grow and get that like hands-on experience. I also applied to like a master's, but then my grades at engineering weren't high enough, so I didn't get it. I'm glad I didn't get it because I think apprenticeship it gave me a lot of hands-on experience and time to grow under people who have actually done it, and it's basically doing your role just the light version. So there's no real risk because someone is always looking over the work you're doing, but you're not given an assignment with like a grading system. You're like, here's an actual client, write a blog for them or run a PR campaign for them, and then we'll check the work after you're done. And then you're not penalized for doing it wrong. You're actually taught how to do it, and that like iteration practically really helps. So I think it gives someone a huge boost in their marketing career. And I think without it, I just wouldn't have a practical element to marketing. I think we can all talk really good marketing talk, and because it sounds cool, and you can say all these buzzwords like KPI and design. But then if you're actually someone that has done it, your mind's a lot more mature. I think even people that go into university, I always tell them try to find as much applicable routes, even if you have a side project, to kind of try to mimic my apprenticeship experience to them, because I know how beneficial it is and how more of a mature marketer, or I think mature adult you become through that like failure route where someone is supervising.
I love that. I'm a little bit curious though. Tom, as an employer, what is that like, having employees there that you need to give a safe space for them to be able to fail?
Ultimately, that is it. And I think you've got to allow apprenticeships and young people to fail, as much as that sounds horrendous. Digital marketing, you learn best when you're on the job. And if you're not in an environment where you can fail safely and the punishments are too bad, you won't learn, and you'll get too jaded by digital marketing quite quickly. Creating that safe space is not easy, I think. And I think this is one of the things, particularly with agencies environments now, is the work from home balance. And I was having this debate with myself and my other two of my young members of staff, is that actually being in the office is beneficial and not just working from home. I know that's another debate, but that being in an office environment, creating an environment where you can learn, test, is really important. And actually then just being able to pick up and go, hands up, what's wrong with this? Or just checking it over the shoulder and just having a discussion, I think is really important. And that's, from my point of view, looking at it, that's becoming less at the moment. And it does need to change a little bit more back. But I know that's another issue, particularly was from a learning environment. You need to be around lots of people sharing ideas and actually having that ability just to test and learn very quickly.
100% agree. Like, I freelance now, and one of the things I miss most, and also I feel like I don't learn, because two of the people here will agree, when I don't know something, or if I get a little bit needy throughout the day, I kind of walk around and ask questions. And I've always felt that really helped me in my career. And now I'm just going to ask Bradley the same question I sent to Kareem a second ago. Like, how do you think your apprenticeships served you and your career?
Massively. I mean, I think SEO is sort of, and digital marketing more broadly, is like an outlier in terms of industries. At the top of my head, anyway, don't hold me to that. But you don't need a degree, you don't need a certification to get into the industry. It's purely experience based. So while I could have got into the career that I got into without an apprenticeship, because you don't need a certificate to say that you can do it. You know, I could have built my own website, I could have gone freelance. But I think the benefit of an apprenticeship is it doesn't take you from A to B. Like it won't take you from like someone with no knowledge to someone who's an expert, but it does give you like the building blocks, and it's up to you what you do with that post apprenticeship. And I think for me, it had the perfect blend of like on hand experience, you know, shadowing people that were already in the industry. I mean, my manager was one of the best people throughout my career. Like, she was amazing. She was great at what she did, and she really took the time to sit with me and help me learn things. And I think it's what Tom was saying as well. Like, you do have that sort of time to make mistakes, but learn from it in a safe environment. And I think that's a perfect way to learn in digital marketing. I don't learn through reading or watching videos. Like, I learn through doing, failing, and then doing it again. And I think apprenticeships allows you to do that in a safe and sort of tangible environment.
Yeah, fantastic. Like, yeah, it all comes back to that it's a safe space to learn those practical skills, and that you're not expected to be an expert. You're everyone knows you're there as an apprentice, and you can have better support networks. And it's really fascinating to me, and I'm not sure who to aim this question to, so I'm going to just, it's out there for everyone. But like, having an apprentice in your team, what does that bring to your business? How do they benefit you?
I'll pick that one up. It's an apprenticeship for me is very long term. I judge on recruiting someone over 2 or 3 years. There is massive recruitment costs, as with there's 2 recruitment in this room. When you're looking at that, an apprenticeship for a business is a good approach, but you're ultimately planning 2 years, 3 years ahead, taking that person from a apprentice to an account manager, to a team lead, all the way up, and you're thinking, well, how can I see that person in my team? So that recruitment process at the very start is very, very important, particularly to me. But that's what it means to me. It's just like I'm future planning 2 years, 3 years ahead. That if I invest in these people, I know these people, I trust these people, they will then invest in the business. And that's really, really important to me as an employer. And all the time I put into them, and the other team members are putting into these people, we then get back 2, 3 years later down the line. Some people sooner, some people shorter, but that's what it means to me.
Can I add to that actually as well? Because I totally agree with you, Tom. But the thing with what it brings to the team is that a lot of people think that, oh, I'm hiring an apprentice. Oh, it's cracky. It's going to be like having a work experience person from school, and they're put off a little bit by that. And it doesn't actually have to be that way. And it's not that they're not going to deliver impact for your business because they're young. Because actually, yes, you can employ straight from school. And yes, it will take you a little bit more. You know, you've got to plan properly, give a proper program, and support them properly. But you'd expect that whatever you're doing throughout building your team. But of course, you can also upskill somebody who's been there with you for many years, who's just been sort of learning it on the job, never really been taught best practice, and suddenly gets that training. And I was actually we were doing a webinar yesterday actually about business apprenticeships. And while I was waiting for everybody to come in, I just had on the screen 3 stories from some of the apprentices that we've taught at Swarm, and the actual impact in numbers that these guys have had for their business. And we're talking thousands of pounds that some of them have saved. I think one guy was about 56,000, I think he'd saved the business during the course of his apprenticeship. What he was doing, a business improvement apprenticeship. Somebody else had brought in so much in terms of new client business. Somebody else had built a whole sort of CRM system, project managed a team, by sort of working with people who just guiding her, and then she sort of picked up the reins and just run with it. So actually, they can, with the proper support, they can bring some huge benefits to your business. And it's you need to invest in your staff anyway. So why not do that? Keep them long term. They'll be very loyal, and they will really deliver that impact. But that's the same for anybody. An apprentice is just a new way of doing it, really.
Yeah, and me and Suzanne had a call about this the other day, and I was saying to her that my experience has been within SEO particularly, but I think as a wider digital marketing issue, that agencies and companies are so against hiring digital marketing apprentices because they think it's fresh out of school 16-year-olds. And yeah, it might be, and they could be brilliant. There is the slight gamble with apprenticeships. Like you might not necessarily get the hardest work, but the chances are you probably will. If a 16-year-old is applying for an apprenticeship, it's likely they're going to want to work. Otherwise, they could just apply to college and not turn up. Like that's how I did college a little bit. I didn't pick great courses. But are there any other misconceptions that we've not thought about around apprentices?
I'd probably. Oh, sorry, Karim. Did you want to go first?
Yeah, I just wanted to add just a point on like the not hardworking bit. I agree, like the idea of hiring like a 16-year-old might be scary for a business, but I think a lot of people forget 16-year-olds now, especially in marketing, they're a lot more mature than we think in the tech. I wouldn't hire a 40-year-old and ask them how do I make a TikTok. I want to hire, people making TikToks. So you're hiring someone who has the experience. They just don't really know how to use it. So that's like a really, really big thing that a lot of people might miss in hiring like young people, especially in creative roles. And from what I've seen, like we had a couple of apprentices in when we were working in SEO Works as well alongside me, who I remember one was 16 and he was like the hungriest person I've ever seen, in work terms, not in physical terms. But he was really, really hungry to work. And there's a certain level of person that applies to directly go to work and might jeopardize his social life when he gets to uni. Like you were saying, Billy, I did that at uni as well. It was like 3 years of basically coasting. So you chose the university route. That doesn't mean you're doing university level hard work. But apprenticeships, it's really, really hard to coast because you're at a job, you're getting paid. There's a direct manager. You have some KPIs. So a lot of them are very, very hungry. And if you get that type of person, like Tom was saying, it can be a really big investment where you've gotten someone, if they have the right culture, right mentality, you teach them right, and you've invested in that asset for the next couple of years.
You still do get some apprentices who aren't really bothered, and they come and they think this is an easy route. I'll be able to earn while I'm learning. Learning will just happen without me doing much. That does happen, but that's where it's really down to your recruiter recruiting the right person. Sophie, I know I'm not just saying this just because I work with her, but Sophie's brilliant at just spotting those people who are really, as you say, hungry to learn. They're really committed. They've got the right attitude. They turn up, and that's exactly what you need. If they do that, you can teach the rest. That is, and they've got that approach and that ability. Then yes, the rest will come. So it's down to picking the right person. Getting a good recruiter to help you.
I think
sorry, you go.
Sorry, Billy. I think finalising the recruitment process is really important to find the right candidate. So I am quite open-minded with recruiting apprentices. You have to be. They're not going to have a wealth of experience. Some might, but some don't. So you have to be very open-minded with apprentices. And at Swarm Recruitment, we offer a free recruitment service if you're using Swarm Training as a training provider. So we can finalise the recruitment process and make sure we're finding the right people for employers. But I think bringing apprentices in, showing them the workplace is really important to show them what they're going to be doing long term, and that way you'll find the right person. We do see a lot of young people who do have those right motivations, and that's what I'm looking for within candidates, is having someone that has that drive and the want to do it. You can teach skills, but you can't teach enthusiasm. So that is what I look for, is potential within candidates. So yeah, sorry.
That ties into my question for you completely. Like, Sophie, so you're there at the really early stage, you're meeting the apprentices, trying to decide if they'd be, in this imaginary scenario, you're meeting apprentices, you're trying to decide if they're going to be right to join Tom's team. What are your green flags? What do you want to see? Like, I know you said drive and passion, but what can apprentices do to show you their drive and passion?
So I tend to look for specifics on a CV. So if they've said they're interested in marketing, doing an apprenticeship, I look for specifics. I do love a cover letter because it puts more personality to an application. So I do like reading through a cover letter. Yes, it might have a few mistakes on there, but that's fine. If they've put that effort in and they've showed that they've put that effort in, researched the job role, showed their passion, that's what I look for. When I call a candidate and I speak to them over the phone, I will tend to look for someone that's quite bubbly, enthusiastic about the job role, and has done research into the employer, the qualification, and has looked into the location, travel preferences. So just showing me that they've done a little bit of research into the job role. If they ask questions as well, asking questions about the apprenticeship training, asking about the employer, asking about career progression, that stands out to me and shows that they are looking to learn and grow within a company. So looking for those behaviours and motivation, enthusiasm is very important for me. They don't have to have a lot of experience. They don't have to. If they've got a little bit of work experience, that's great. I do like to speak to the candidates that have had a career change as well. So someone that's maybe done engineering at university and now is changing careers. I do like to speak to candidates like that because they have that want to do it and want to change, and maybe something's they're not feeling right in their current job role or education and they want to change. I always go back to how I felt when I was applying for apprenticeships, and I applied for so many and was unsuccessful for quite a lot. So I always go back to how I felt when I was applying for apprenticeships, and I think how I came across, I was quite shy, but I had that passion to do the job role. So I'm quite open-minded when I speak to candidates.
It's so interesting to hear like what you as a recruiter look for, and all the small things like actually writing a cover letter representing yourself and like that. And then it's been a long time since I was an apprentice. I can't remember how the interview process worked, but I assume once they've got through you, Sophie, and you're like, yes, I love this person, I like them, I'm going to put them in contact with Tom. He's going to then, I assume, have an interview with them. Yeah. Tom, are there any things that you really look for in a young person applying?
Yes, it's quite hard. The main thing is emotional intelligence. If I crack it down to like what I'm actually recruiting on, it's that, particularly young people with little experience. And I think there's definitely willingness. You'd be surprised how many young people can't actually hold a conversation with you face to face. That is a bit worrying. Particularly in a digital environment. Yes, it is digital environment, but the main thing that sets you apart in this space is actually just having a conversation, communicating your ideas very clearly, and being able to educate that in a way that people understand is very, very important. Yes, those skills grow as you get better, but the foundations are that actually, could I put that person in front of a client couple of years down the line and them actually shine? Yes, that's the gamble ultimately that you're playing with in your head when you're looking at 16 and 18-year-olds. And it's harder with 16-year-olds than it is with 18-year-olds straight out of school, particularly in the digital scene. But ultimately it's emotional intelligence. It's having that conversation. Can they accurately explain something in detail and just go no? And that is ultimately what I'm looking for when I'm looking at this level. It's just like, can they hold a conversation? Is that conversation detailed enough to extract out information and show a level of attention to detail that I expect when working? Because ultimately within the digital environment, particularly within the paid environment, I know there's a few SEOs in the room as well. Attention to detail is the most important thing, particularly in the paid and a digital environment. And that could be, and it's spotting those things. So I put things in place where I give people small little tests just to see if they can just spot very small little things. And you'd be surprised how many people can't. The ones that do, those are the ones I give jobs to.
Yeah. You just reminded me of a bit of a digital marketing horror story, and it's why I don't touch PPC, which is pay per click. I know someone that was trying to learn it and running it for a friend's business. They're an SEO, and they definitely didn't have the attention to detail skills needed for PPC, because they set up the campaign and just left it running for about 6 months, and had a multi-thousand-pound bill at the end of it.
Yeah,
It would just went to the yeah.
It's the same with SEO as well. It's attention to detail, and even within SEO, you know, you're looking for, can you accurately have conversations and communicate things from a training point of view, very much so in paid, but also in paid social as well. You know, there's very minute things, and it's doing that. Sometimes I don't think digital marketing is hard, but it's doing the same thing accurately, constantly, is very, very important. And you've got to have a mindset to keep checking yourself and keep checking that. And that comes down to, again, that emotional intelligence. Yes, that can, and everything else, the tech bits, the run that can be trained on top. But if you don't have those baseline skills, then I won't be giving you a job. But if you do, then actually the world opens up in a digital scene, particularly in agency, and particularly in paid, which is what I'm ultimately looking at.
Okay, so right, we've done the process. I've spoke to Sophie. I've spoke to Tom. You love me as an apprentice. You're giving me the job. What does it then look like an apprenticeship? Is it still mainly work-based with like a classroom day every now and then? Like what's the split and commitment for an actual apprentice? I don't know who I'm asking that to. Probably Suzanne.
Probably me, yeah. I was going to say. So yeah, once you've obviously got to go through the process of getting all the paperwork done and everything like that, and your training provider should be able to help with that. Once that's all been done, we do sort of like a skills scan, which basically checks to see what their starting level is. They shouldn't have too much experience, otherwise they're not right to do the course, because obviously the funding agencies say, well, why are you doing the course, because you already know all of this. So they need to have an interest, exactly as Sophie says, but not too much experience, and then they'll benefit. So we get through the funding, all the forms done, they get a start, and then what happens is they have to have the hours that they do every week off the job, which are 6 hours a week. They need to do then the rest, which would be within the job, paid. It's all of it's paid the whole of the time they're at work, and those 6 hours come out of that time at work. It's not that they should be doing that at the weekends or evenings or anything like that. But what they're doing with those 6 hours is they're studying. So they will get if it was through us, I can only really speak from us as a training provider. If it was through us, typically they'd have one workshop a month, which might be 2.5 hours sort of thing. They will get homework set from that, or assignments to do, preferably ones where they can actually go and do it on the job, so they can show their knowledge, but doing it practically, and therefore sort of show their knowledge and skill together. And they'll be gathering evidence of what they've actually done, which we can then put into a portfolio, and they gradually build up this portfolio of evidence of their knowledge and skills and behaviours over the course of the typically around 12 to 14 months. They'll have with us, they have a one-to-one with their tutor as well each month. They might have to do maths and English, although you may have seen that the rules have suddenly changed on that. We might not have to do that anymore. They will do personal development workshops as well, which is usually with all of the group, all of the apprentices across the training company. They'll come together and do things like conflict management and resilience and prevent and British values and all this kind of stuff, which we get a lot of sort of good reports that actually is very useful, to build those behaviours and that understanding of working with others. And yeah, it's all sort of built up from there. And they sort of the other 6 hours for the other weeks of the month, obviously they're doing those assignments. They're sort of doing work shadowing, or sort of reading, YouTube videos they can do. They can sort of practice things in their own time, just to, so not in their own time, but, during those 6 hours to sort of trial and error, with some of the things that they've learned to see how it work and get feedback from that. So there's an awful lot that they can do. There's a lot their tutor will support them on. Their tutor, with us anyway, they are usually from industry, so they've been doing that profession, for many years anyway, and so they're almost a bit of a consultant, to be honest, for the apprentice. And it's just sort of building up to a point where, as I say, usually about 12 to 14 months, they've finished their portfolio of evidence. They've done all their training and their learning, and we consider them now competent and ready to be assessed. So at that point, they go through something called Gateway, which is just a sort of point where we go, yes, you're ready to be assessed. And at that point, then they start their final endpoint assessment. And that endpoint assessment obviously changes depending on the course. But for the marketing courses, it's typically a project that they need to do on the job, a real project. They need to then write a project report all about that. They need to put a presentation together all about it. If it's the marketing executive course, they have a knowledge test to do as well. But then they get to their final day, which is a sort of meeting with the endpoint assessor, and they do their presentation. The assessor's seen their project report, and they then have a professional discussion all about what's in their portfolio of evidence, and that's how it's done. Hopefully they'll have passed their knowledge test as well, and then they come out with either, hopefully not fail, but they could get that, but mostly then a pass, a merit, or distinction, which are the normal grades that they would come away from, and that's normally wrapped up, I would say, within 18 months, but it's slightly different depending on the course.
That's really interesting. So the final project they do, sorry, I feel like I'm now like trying to scam my way for an apprenticeship. I'm now on this journey. So the final projects they do, would that be related to say if they worked for Tom, would that be related to a client of his? Would that be, what would that look like?
Yeah, there's all sorts of things that could be. So we've had one where it's been building a new website, or it's been doing a particular marketing campaign, or it's been setting up all the social media and doing lots of sort of tracking of the analytics and making decisions from that. Usually it's more sort of exec kind of stuff rather than strategy, but my word, it can be all sorts, just about anything really that the business needs the marketing that apprentice to work on. So long as it's going to meet all the knowledge, skills, behaviours, and show that they have got that knowledge and they can apply it and show everything to the assessor, then anything goes, really.
Cool.
I think.
Oh, sorry, you go.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, thinking back, this is 5-6 years ago now, but when I was doing my apprenticeship and when I was doing all the sort of coursework and the assessment at the end, I think my tutor sat me down and there's a list of criteria that you need to hit to show the knowledge of certain areas. And I think sometimes it can even be oh, you've shown all this in your coursework, but you're missing these points. So maybe you want to do your endpoint assessment in these areas. That was one for me. I think SEO was an easy one that I hit throughout all of them and those sort of skills. And they were like, oh, you've not done any email or social. And I was like, yeah, that's not an area that I'm comfortable with, but I will try my best.
Well, that's so interesting that you had to do all of digital marketing while you was working within an SEO agency. Was that the same for you as well, Kareem?
So yeah, mine was even more interesting because I was digital PR, which is a subsection of the SEO team. So I had to do some SEO stuff, and then I had to work with the marketing team to do some social media stuff, some email marketing stuff. So I had to hit different areas, which I find is pretty cool. And that if you're going into something assuming that you love digital PR, but then you do a couple of SEO campaigns, you're like, oh, this is nicer, I like this more. It gives you that flexibility because you're still super early in your career. A first job or sometimes a degree doesn't really give you that because you haven't done it. You have to apply for a job, get it, and then you're like, oh, in 6 months, then you're not feeling it. but you don't really have the flexibility to say, oh, can I try this or can I try that, because they've hired you for a specific role. But yeah, it made me more sure that I like digital PR than testing out all these other things.
Was that? I'm assuming that was the same as well for you, Bradley.
Actually, my apprenticeship was, I think it was digital marketing and social media apprentice. So like a lot of mine was based around social media, but my tutor and my company were both really good at sort of giving me a wealth of experience and letting me try different things. And it was that I was really bad at social media, and it was not an interest of mine. So I've moved more into SEO, and that is something that my company helped me with, to the point where I was eventually managing SEO clients while I was doing my apprenticeship. And that's not to say everyone will. It just got to the point where my manager was like, okay, I think you're sort of surpassing my level of knowledge, so if you want to go for it, you can go for it. But yeah, just you don't always get what you sort of like think you're going to get when you go into it, but what you get is even better than what you could have imagined when you started.
I just, the more we talk and the more I hear from everyone, I'm just getting more annoyed that more people aren't hiring apprentices. I think I'm going to throw another question at Suzanne, because I know you definitely have the answer to this because I asked you about it already. But I think the last USP on apprenticeships is there's grants available towards hiring an apprentice towards their training. Like,
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So yeah, the way the funding system works is it might take you a bit just to sort of get your head around it, but actually it's relatively straightforward. If you're a large company, that's usually sort of 50 employees or over, you tend to have a X million pounds or whatever of a wage bill. I can't remember what exactly the threshold is, but it's at that point you start paying what they call a levy. So you have to pay a small percentage of your payroll to the government, and that goes towards funding apprenticeships across the country. Now, actually, you use your own sort of what they call the levy pot. You use your own levy pot towards your own apprentices to sort of hire apprentices and use that funding to pay for those courses. Now, how much does a course cost? If you go onto the Institute for Apprenticeships website, you see the courses, you see the costs that that the money is then paid towards, and so you can use your own levy to pay for your own apprentices, and that's fine. If you don't use it all, then it's lost. I think it's a couple of years it's lost, and it goes into the big sort of pot of the government helping to fund apprentices. But if you're a small company and you don't pay the levy, so you're a non-levy payer, you don't you have that big bill, but so you fund a certain amount of it, but it is only very small. It's 5% of the cost of an apprenticeship course is all you pay over the course of the 12 or 14 months, whatever they are on program. So if you think about a course which might be £6,000, which I think marketing exec, something like that, is about that kind of amount, then 5% of that over the course of 12 months, it's not very much. And the government then pays the other 95% of that to the training provider that actually delivers the training. And so you've still got to pay the wages of the apprentice, and you can set that at whatever, really. I mean, we advise sort of no less than minimum wage, but depending on their sort of level that they're already at, it might be you're upscaling somebody who's much more experienced, in which case, don't drop their wage suddenly down. But those are the costs, really. It's the wage, either 5% of the course cost if you're a non-levy payer, or you pay the whole levy anyway, which the company's got to pay, and then you can use that all towards training your own apprentices. So it's quite straightforward. Oh, we can't hear you, Billy. You're on your mute.
Because I drank that water. There's the business case, really, isn't it? I understand that there's risk and why some people would feel anxious or some way about hiring apprentices, but for me, I just keep hearing more and more positives. And Tom, earlier you said you've hired over the course of various industries, something like 32 apprentices.
Yeah, not all apprentices, some graduates, apprentices, not all on apprentices, but all young people. I think there are about 5 or 6 directly through apprenticeships, and the rest were young people applying as well. But yeah, it is difficult, don't get me wrong, because I think there is a lot of expectations, particularly in the paid market and the SEO market. I expect as well that, again, certainly agencies, and when you go in-house, are looking for experience. You're looking to hit the ground running straight away, which you're not going to do with apprenticeships. I think, again, what I'm trying to do is future plan, which then, yes, opens up the door for apprenticeships. But if you're not thinking like that, then you won't hire an apprentice. Unless you're thinking, again, and I hate to say this, again, cheap labour to do a on-the-school job, but that's not really what an apprenticeship is for. It's there to grow and learn and skill and upgrade. So I had difficulties with that mentality as well. But I think that's the problem. It is a bit, particularly at the moment, people want experience. Apprentices don't have that, but agencies particularly, I don't think, are looking to hire at the moment without that level of experience, which pretty much closes the door down for apprenticeships at the moment in some industries with where things are at the moment, unless the company is looking long term, and like it is, 3, 4, 5 years sometimes before you get the most out of it. And that's not necessarily true of digital marketing, where it can be very quick turnaround sometimes. And I think that's a little bit the problem at the moment. Is market. I would say I haven't improved it for 6 months, right? And I think that's just down to the market at the moment as well. But when I do, it's very much that I'm future planning forward. If you're not future planning, if you're not thinking, if you're just thinking about surviving the next day, you won't hire. And you won't work, particularly in apprenticeship.
Yeah, I've seen quite a lot of agency owners wanting like really experienced SEOs, to the point where I've seen a lot of SEOs agency hopping, like essentially being there for 6-9 months and then they're just poaching from each other. And I think this is just a big bad culture, that having apprenticeships and hiring young people is probably a way forward.
No, no, definitely is. And I think, again, if you invest in the people, you look after people, and I think it goes into the culture of the organization and the culture of the company, that if you invest in those young people, ultimately what you're doing is you are being a little bit selfish, but you want them to invest back in you. And that doesn't mean then hopping at the nearest experience when you can get £1,000 for more for just going around the next company. It's probably a bit more than that. I know it's more than that within the paid and SEO industries, but that's not what you're looking at. You're looking at real commitment to the business and the organization for that investment. And that is a bit, from an agency point of view, from a small business point of view, there might need to be that's where I think there could be some changes within apprenticeships and like within the structure. I think the structure is good, and I think the financing is good. It's just the willingness to take anybody on is difficult, because you're thinking, well, if I invest in these, there's an argument. If you invest in people, you don't invest in people, but we really, really, truly do. And it's wanting them to invest back in the business. And I think that's the most important thing. But that comes from also then a good culture, good working environment, flexibility, ownership, and it comes down all the way. And I will accept that some agencies don't do that. It's just cheap labor, sorry. And that can really put people off working in an agency environment. It depends on the employer and the employee and the apprenticeship at the same time. And I think getting that cultural balance right is really, really important. And that's almost to the point. You have to double check. So that our employers insist about apprenticeships as well, because I think that there's something that goes into that cultural fit as well within that scheme. I think they used to be, but I'm not 100%. So you probably have to correct them on that point as well. But it's just creating that culture of learning to not learning to fail, but learning to grow and in a safe environment, and then investing from a culture point that they will want to stay with you long term.
Tom, can I ask you something actually? Given obviously the tax changes that happened, and how that sort of impacted businesses, because we're very conscious of that, it's a tough market out there anyway, generally for jobs, but particularly for people trying to get an apprenticeship. We've sort of noticed that people are sort of fearful and have sort of gone, oh dear, maybe I'll just hang on, I won't hire anybody at the moment and see what happens. How has that affected you?
We're a smaller agency. I think there's 10 of us in total. I'm going to full stop. I'm not hiring until I know what the full implication is.
Yeah.
I'm not. If I have a short overview at the moment, I will hire a freelancer to cover for short term where I need it. I won't invest in an apprenticeship. I'm sorry. And that is until I know what the tax implications are going forward.
Yeah, which is understandable. That's the thing. It's, employers want to hire, don't they? That's the thing in so many ways, but they've got to balance the books. So yeah,
you've got to be true to the business, and you've got to be true to that. Ultimately, you are there to make a profit. And it's really, and within agencies, you are constantly balancing between demand and you're currently balancing demands in a service environment. And sometimes you'll have overpeaks and sometimes you'll have troughs. So where the overpeaks come in, generally now I'll go out to a freelancer network. Whereas previously I might have given some of that work, you work downwards. So for example, if somebody could pick up that work, you would bring an apprentice to bring up the account level work that can be done quite manually, and it's very good learning environment. There's some SEOs in there, and I've set a lot of link building tasks in the past. There might be some to it. So you give that level of work, but you're not at the moment. I won't, because I don't want to recruit. I will go out external.
Yeah.
And
that's horrible, but that is currently the situation, at least to April.
Yeah, I get that, and it's just a hard time at the moment, full stop. But switching quickly to our final question, which I'm hoping they'll all be happier, and we can just pretend it's after April and that the situation's great. I just want to go round everyone and either a statement or a couple of sentences or a complete tangent, answer how you want, but why should employers hire apprentices? Just in one concise way each, please. Sophie, I'll start with you again because you're on my right. I didn't see anyone jumping in.
Yeah, so I think employers should hire apprentices because it helps the apprentice grow, helps someone build their career, start their career. I also think it helps with retention and loyalty. That apprentice is going to have a certain level of loyalty to the company that's put that effort in to support them. So there's going to be retention, helps retention. Also thinking of it long term, they can progress, go on to higher level apprenticeships if they wanted to. Also, I think bringing in someone new, you can mold them to your ways of working. So for me, I started with Swarm. I was still an apprentice, still doing an apprenticeship in recruitment. And Paul, my manager, he taught me his way of working. So now when we go off and speak to clients, I do the same sort of process as what Paul does. So you can mold them into your ways of working, and they're not coming with a wealth of experience and stuck in their own ways. You can teach them and mold them to your processes, your systems that you use, and really teach them. So yeah, definitely molding a candidate, an apprentice, into the ways of working, and thinking long term as well.
And Bradley, you're next. I'm not going to introduce if you just want to jump in everyone else. I feel like the handover's awkward.
Sorry, no, that's okay. I think, from my perspective, obviously not from a business perspective, but as an individual, introducing the next sort of generation of marketers into the mix Like I have quite a few friends that have done apprenticeships as well, not just in marketing, but in web development, admin, business, like all these different areas. And I think like it introduces skills that you wouldn't normally get in university, or if you hadn't have gone through an apprenticeship. Like sometimes you can sort of like look at the way someone works or the way that somebody has built their experience up, and you can tell who went in an apprenticeship and who didn't. um, and I think it just makes it sort of like capitalizes on people's individual passions and interests, and allows you to sort of funnel it in a way that is beneficial to you, but also the business as well. And I just sort of attest all my success to an apprenticeship. So I would say, like, why not at the end of the day? Like, it's risk free from your perspective. Like, because I didn't know what I wanted to do, going into a uni course would have been a complete waste of time for me and just throwing money out the window, basically. And I think an apprenticeship, whether you sort of get through it, you finish it, that will have only been 12, 14 months. And if it's not what you want to do, you've not wasted any money, but you've also learned those hard skills that you can take anywhere else.
Shall I go next? Because I sort of on top of that, actually, Bradley, you sort of talking about it from the point of view of the apprentice, and yes, absolutely, crikey, there's so much you can gain. But I just want to say it from the side of the business as well. So much they gain. You really, every business should be building training in as a standard part of their HR. It is the way that you grow the people who are actually your business. Your business is nothing without your people. And you need to be constantly developing them and growing. And I don't mean literally just at 16 to 18 level. I mean right up to the top level of management. There are leadership and management apprenticeships out there. So an apprenticeship is a way of tapping into training, which you should be doing anyway. And people often worry, business owners worry, well, if I train them well, they're going to then leave. But there's a great quote from Richard Branson, I think, who talks about train them well enough so that they can leave, treat them well enough so that they want to stay. And training a person, anybody within your organization, shows that you care about their development. You want to build them up. If you invest in them, they're going to invest in you. They're going to want to stay because you're treating them so well. So that is a myth, that they won't leave if you treat them well, and training is a way to treat them really well.
Yeah, I really, really like that. And I think it's like 4 people here who've been very successful in their career have done apprenticeships. I'm not sure about you, Suzanne or Tom, but that would up the numbers if you guys are. But it shows that you get someone who's at the very start of their career, and you get them for a lot cheaper than you would if you tried to get them now. So it is a risk reward thing, and I understand the business implication. But from my experience and from what a lot of other people's experience has been through apprenticeships, you get people who are very hungry to learn, and if you treat them well enough, they will carry your business to the future. And if you're a business who might have been trying to hire for now, and as a lot of businesses do, and hiring is tough. Like I've had to make my first hire a couple of months ago, and it's a lot harder than it looks. So I don't envy anyone who's done multiple of them, especially if they're like a teenager and you see like the glimmer in their eyes and you want to give them an opportunity, but you can't. I completely understand that. But I think if you invest knowing it's like the young academy prospect who's going to be like the next Lionel Messi, there's a lot of them out there, and a lot of people are now seeking these alternatives to university. So I think as a business, you can really capitalize on getting someone who then, if you treat well enough, will have that loyalty to your business and might be your future CFO or future like CMO. And you got them from when they're very, very young, and they can then teach other apprentices, and you can kind of develop that culture within. So I think it's a massive opportunity for the apprentice. I think it's an even bigger opportunity if you choose the right person as a business.
What we'll say, I did a graduate program, so I didn't do an apprenticeship. I did a graduate program. That was a few years ago now, I will confess.
No shame, I did both. It's okay.
It opens up. I did do a degree in marketing, and then I did an apprentice, and then I did a graduate program in marketing. But the main thing for me in apprenticeships is giving people an opportunity, and I think giving people an opportunity that they wouldn't originally had without apprenticeships. And this is my story, but being able to ability to look at somebody and potentially change their whole life, that what gives me quite of a buzz, particularly if you can do paid or an SEO in digital well over a number of years. The wages are very, very considerable. And I think giving somebody that opportunity to change their stars, that is what makes me do it at the end of the day.
Love that.
Yeah, wow.
I didn't do an apprenticeship, but oh my goodness, I wish I could have done. They just weren't really around at the time when I graduated. I did my degree, and then I had to practically start from the bottom anyway, because you haven't got any practical training. So I wish I could have done an apprenticeship, but it wasn't open to me at that time.
I just think we've established over and over again in this last hour how amazing apprenticeships are. I am going to wrap up now and thank everyone. Before I do, I'm just going to do a quick plug because I kind of have to. Check out Rank Suite. We do digital marketing training and it's all practical. There's loads of practical activities. It's a safe space to fail. Got to do the plug. But yeah, the most important thing is creating a space for new people in our industry to come in, grow and learn and have careers, because I certainly don't want to be doing SEO in my 60s. Let a young'un do it. You know what I mean? So yeah, let's keep on keeping on, basically. Thank you, Sophie, Bradley, Tom, Kareem, and Suzanne for your time today. For those that are watching, whether it's now or in a bit, follow everyone, hire an apprentice, hire Tom's agency to do your PPC and stuff, and get Bradley and Kareem on stage speaking and work with them, and they're all fantastic. And thank you all.
Thank you, Billy.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Billy.
Billy.